Welcome to Real Estate Radio Live, an informative and engaging podcast discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate. Your host, 𝗘𝗀𝗁𝗧, provides you with insight and guidance on how to buy, sell, finance, and invest in real estate. He also offers real estate tax management strategies, new construction advice, home improvement tips, and much, much more. And now, to guide you around the world of real estate, here's your host and Real Estate Radio Live team leader, 𝗘𝗀𝗁𝗧.
Welcome in, 𝗘𝗀𝗁𝗧 with Real Estate Radio Live. Thank you for those that continue to follow the show and give us feedback, etc. We appreciate that very much. For almost 11 years now and over 1,700 interviews, we've done live radio. We've stopped that about 2 or 3 years ago, and now doing majority just podcast, and really appreciate the growth, the feedback, and the information we get from our from the people that follow the show, and we appreciate that very much. I'll introduce my guest in just a minute. Before we do that, just a reminder, for more information, you could go to RERL-1761.com. That's RERL-1761.com. We speak mostly, of course, real estate related topics, anything to do with real estate. However, we also do a fair amount of community shows, giving back segments. Anybody that wants to come on the show, really, that could provide information to the community about any services. We do nonprofit. We want to really try to be a resource for the nonprofits and organizations and people who are trying to do great things for the community, especially within this pandemic. There's a lot of companies, a lot of businesses, a lot of organizations that need help. So if we could do that, feel free to reach out and let us know if we could help in any way possible as well. All right, let me introduce my guest. As most of you know, we're based here in the Bay Area, and full disclosure, right before the introduction, I'll let everybody know Mr. 𝗟𝗡𝗙𝗧, who is an expert real estate agent down on the coast of Monterey, and also a great friend that we've gone back, Ed, how long? 35 or years ago or something now?
Do we have to really go there?
It's a good thing everybody's just getting the audio. You can get the visual if you want, but Ed and I met each other years ago playing at San Jose State, playing baseball, and it was great to reconnect, and it's great to know that he's been actually in the Bay Area himself for a long, long time. But I won't waste any more time giving you any of the update on that. I'll let him do that. So yeah, 𝗟𝗡𝗙𝗧 is with us today. Not only a very good friend and known each other for a long time, but now he is working down on the beautiful coastal area of Monterey and Carmel. And I'll let him, why don't you, Ed, give us a little about your background, when you got into real estate. I know you made some moves, and give us kind of an idea of, not only the background, but graduating, moving forward, and now where you're operating and working now.
Okay. I kind of started this journey in real estate about 25 years ago for my, the part of actually selling for people. I kind of played with it myself before that, of buying, fixing, selling, and then kind of thought, gosh, I could kind of do this as a living if I just actually did what I say and, do everything that I'm supposed to do. And so 25 years ago, I kind of quit my job. I had just gotten married, and my wife is like, what are you doing? So I started with a company there, and it was a little brokerage, kind of went out, interviewed different agents, so on and so forth, and kind of found my way to a spot, and then ended up going to another spot that kind of took me to where I was like, wow, this is really a great fit. And so in my 25 years, I've kind of went through companies and so on and so forth. And now I'm down here at Monterey Coast and Carmel Realty. We're sister companies. And what kind of brought me here was relationship building. The experienced agents, everybody that works here does actually a ton of business. I mean, I don't know that I want to work that hard, and I probably shouldn't say that because my manager is going to kill me, but it's kind of nice that you work with a bunch of people that do this for a living.
Yeah.
It's not just doing it, I'm doing something else and I'm doing this. Nothing against anybody that wants to do that, but there is something to be said about working in an office that has that synergy. And, staff wise, we have an excellent marketing department. We've got, all that stuff. So that's kind of what I've looked for the most, is almost like a family feel,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah. When you and I, when I was down there a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about that, and you were impressed about when you did your interviewing down there, and sounds like you landed at a great spot, great support, great reputation. And on top of everything else, I'll have to say, for those that are not familiar with Carmel and Monterey and the coastal area, the added benefit is that when you wake up in the morning, you get to walk out your door and you're working in some of the most beautiful, and, you know, I'm obviously a little biased, but some of those beautiful areas in the United States and country, you could make a case for when you talk about Pebble Beach and Carmel and Monterey and all the areas, you know, around that area are just absolutely gorgeous. So I got to guess that that's some kind of benefit, huh? Just grabbing a cup of coffee and waking up in the morning and seeing the air, feeling the air.
Yeah, it's not bad every day taking a walk and being on the ocean.
Yeah.
That is definitely not bad. And coming from Danville, before I made my way down here, when I hear from friends that they're telling me it's 100 degrees or it's 105 and I'm in 65 degree, and
Yeah.
you know, it's not a bad thing.
No.
And 65 down here is pretty nice. I mean, it's not, a lot of people feel like 65 degrees, oh, that's cold, but it doesn't feel like that down there.
No, it's perfect.
So
So kind of geographically then, for those that, again, that are listening may familiar, but we don't want to assume that. So you are covering Monterey, kind of Pebble Beach, Carmel Valley. Give us kind of an idea of, for those that may not be familiar with that area down there, the areas that you cover.
yeah, I've pretty much, so I came down here, like I told you 2 years ago,
Uh-huh.
but my wife and I have been coming down here for well over 30 years.
Right.
And so I've kind of tried to, just like when I started my business in Danville, I didn't grow up there, so I kind of had to learn. I've really focused on Carmel, Pebble Beach, and now I'm starting to reach out into different areas.
Okay.
And, you know, one of the things that's kind of, you know, Pacific Grove, Monterey, and it's kind of nice because my experience in real estate, I can give that to agents in our office. And then in return, it's kind of like I can ask, hey, what about this area of whatever the city
Right.
is? And we kind of get that, you know, back and forth, which is kind of nice.
Right. And I imagine that you'll share with us too, but I imagine it's got to be a big help being in the Bay Area and Danville for your first part of your career and having that area, because I'm just guessing that a fair amount of people are purchasing second homes or maybe even moving down there from the Bay Area on a regular basis. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's probably a little bit alarming to most people how many actually are. I mean, I was just looking at, that's one of the things that this company has, is their big thing on analytics and where the buyers are coming from. And so we kind of monitor all that stuff. And I was just going through it with one of our staff, and he said, you know, we're talking 40 to 55% of our buyers are from somewhere in the Bay Area.
No kidding. Wow.
Yeah.
I would have never guessed that high. Wow.
No. And when I first came down, I kind of went to my local title rep and I said, hey, can you just pull me up? I want people with primary residence between Orinda and Pleasanton, and secondary residence or third or fourth. You know, I mean, down here, people could have their fifth or sixth house. It's kind of crazy, but it's the reality. And there were, I think it was 460 people that actually owned a place down here. That's just on the East Bay. That's not even including San Francisco, Oakland, you know, or the peninsula.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
that is amazing. I would have never guessed that, but that is good. But that's good data and statistics to know, and it helps you as an agent to, you know, for your target marketing and know what's happening in the areas of who's buying. So what about, have you guys, I guess, tell us a little bit about the market in general. Most of the listeners here, I'll say that, you know, about 65 to 70% of our listeners are in the greater Bay Area. Then we have a fair amount in California and some out of the state and even some out of the country. But for the most part, most of our listeners are in, you know, Northern California and the Bay Area. Give us kind of an idea what the market is like. Is it similar to what we're hearing in the South Bay and Silicon Valley and a lot of these other places where multiple offers, low inventory, seller's market? Is it about the same or a little different?
It's actually a little different. It's similar, but it's a little different.
Okay.
And, coming down here from the East Bay, this is my third go round with multiple offers and craziness and so on and so forth. Managing that and knowing how to guide your clients through it or whichever, or even set your clients up to understand this is how we should do it ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
Coming down here, I think this is their first go round with that.
Okay.
Which, makes it a little bit challenging when you're kind of sitting there going, well, this is the way it should be done. But, it is what it is.
Right.
It is, though, there's low inventory. I think Pebble Beach, there's 39 properties on.
Wow.
All of Carmel, there's 69 properties on.
Yeah.
And those numbers are way down. Pacific Grove, there's only 18 properties on in Pacific Grove.
Boy.
And it is a crazy market, but it's more driven by just a smaller area and, a secondary home market rather than being, somebody in the peninsula or somebody in the East Bay.
Right.
That are, that's their family home for the most part.
Yeah. Did you see kind of a tick up or pick up in business down in your area, and maybe specifically from the Bay Area or other places where people are saying, hey, I'm finally realizing I could work from anywhere? And did you see a pickup in business because of that whole concept? You're hearing about a lot of people, the second home market really exploding in the last year and a half or so, really all over the United States and mostly kind of vacation coastal areas. And you hear Montana and, Wyoming and Arizona and some other places. Did you get a bit of that as well?
Yeah. And I think you and I talked about that Wyoming and that Boise thing.
Yeah.
And wait until those people see the winters, but we don't have that problem down here. Yeah, we did. We actually, once COVID opened up, literally my phone just rang off the hook. And I think you kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. My connection to the East Bay has really benefited me. I've gotten, referrals from friends, from past clients, from other agents, that I've always looked at as I'm working with the other agents rather than against.
Right.
Right. Unlike when we played baseball, I was probably the most hated guy from the other team and the most liked guy on our own team. So I just have never taken that into this. I feel like everybody's working together to try and get to a common goal, whether you're trying to get your seller the best price or your buyer the best price. Everyone's trying to get to a common goal, and that's, get the transaction done as professionally, as honestly as possible.
Yeah. Not to go off track, but this has something to do with something came to mind. And I love, when I do these interviews, I love to talk about when I'm fortunate enough to interview an athlete, that especially someone that performs such at a high level like yourself, that was drafted and played in the major league organizations for a while. Don't you think there is a lot, while you're in the middle of that, you don't know it. But for me, when I got out into the business world and kind of personal interaction, I felt that as I, started businesses myself and in business now and doing different things, that sports actually played at that level, helped me a lot with, connections, relationships, learning how to fail, learning how to get back up and realize the next day you got to go up, all those things. I know they sound kind of funny and corny, but what's your take on that? Do you think that helped you as you got into let's call it the real life after baseball?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And it's kind of interesting because I was coaching my daughter's softball team. And I went out and I was talking to this little girl, and she said, Coach, it's like being a fish. And I'm like, what the heck is this girl talking about? And she goes, it's the next pitch. You just don't think about it. And that's kind of how you have to take this business, because you get a whole bunch of, no's and maybes and, possiblies. And it definitely helps you in this business.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it has as well. Tell us a little bit about, if someone's thinking about buying down in that area, Ed, what they need to know. It's a different market than the Bay Area. You worked up here, you know what it's like. There's different things that take place in different unique markets a lot of people may not be aware of. Tell us a little bit about how the coastal markets might be a little different than, say, a Bay Area or San Francisco or, any other places that aren't unique like Pebble Beach and Monterey and Carmel. What are some of those things you think that people may not be aware of when they start looking or thinking about it?
Well, I think if somebody's thinking that they're going to come down here and flip houses or, something like that, you probably want to do a couple things. And that's live down here for a little bit and kind of figure out how to deal with, whether it be the city, whether it be, water credits and water issues, which we deal with down here. I think that the difference of, like, just say, for instance, the buyers. So I've been down here for 2 years, and probably 90% of my transactions have been all cash. I worked in the East Bay for 23 years.
That's amazing.
And I did 2 all cash deals. And I did a lot of business. So it's kind of one of those, it kind of takes you to a different, whether you want to say a different pool of buyers or whichever it is.
Actually, was that let's expand on that a little bit. All 90%, roughly 90% all cash. Now, were those, what were the range? And I don't mean to stick, but was it like 2 to 4 million, 10 to 20 million, or is it kind of all over the map in terms of?
It's all over the map.
Okay, so it could be a $2 million home or a $12 million home. Most of it's cash.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Got it.
And I deal with buyers from. I got a referral from an agent in Orinda about a month and a half ago. She said, "Hey, I've got this great couple. They're looking for a condo for their son that's going to go to CSUMB."
Okay.
Great. I'm on it. To people that it's their 5th and 6th house.
Right. Okay.
So it's all across. I take them all on.
Well, that's good. I think that's a good thing to do for sure. I think when any of us in this business, whether we're, on my side mortgage or you in real estate, when you think you're a little bit too good for anybody, that could be a danger sign, I think, personally.
Yeah. No, I'm a kid from Hayward. I didn't come from this type of area. I mean, it's awesome to be able to live here.
Yeah, no, it is for sure. For those, again, I'm checking in. I'm interviewing Mr. 𝗟𝗡𝗙. He's a real estate agent down in the Carmel, Monterey coastal area. We'll give his information out a little later as we exit the show as well. But in the meantime, Ed, if someone wants to reach out or get a hold of you, has questions about the market or anything they could do to help you, what's the best way to reach you?
You can probably go to my website and all my contact information's there. The original www.𝗥𝗱𝗡𝗡𝗘.com. Find me on Instagram, find me on LinkedIn, wherever. Yeah. I'm there. Everything's right there on my website. So
you talked a little bit about the uniqueness of the market. If you're, a person looking to flip, be careful about that. I know there's a lot of different things that people don't understand. I mean, I think most of us, if we were really honestly in a lot of kind of small town or townships, it's a lot more difficult just building and doing what you want. But I know in San Jose and actually in most of California, Ed, there's been a kind of a loosening of, matter of fact, now a lot of counties are advocating ADUs and in-law units and different accessory units on the property because, they've been kind of mandated throughout the state trying to help the housing shortage, so to speak. I know in San Jose and different counties, I know friends down in San Diego, it's a lot easier now working with the counties, getting permits and getting a lot of things done in that nature. Is that affected kind of Carmel, Pebble Beach, or is that a little different, again, because of some of the regulations in county and permits and stuff that they allow? Have you seen much of that in your area?
There definitely is a loosening of that. And I kind of know on personal experience.
Oh, okay.
Just because when I came down here, I'm going through the process of a remodel for the last 3.5 years.
Okay.
And we wanted to put an ADU on at that time. And the city said, we can't do it. You have to have a 6,000 foot lot. I have a 5,700 square foot lot. And that'll kind of give you an idea of what lot sizes are here versus in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
People are like, wait a second, my garage is that big. And down here, the things that you do kind of run into are water issues, or they don't want outside lights. They want all down facing lights. And there's a lot of issues like that
Okay.
probably don't come up in most areas. I know like Lafayette has some of those light issues, but they're pretty stringent, and you have to go through the whole process in order to get it done.
Yeah.
It's not quite as easy as I know when I was in Danville. It was a lot easier to get stuff done.
Yeah.
So,
one of the things that I recognize being in this business this long, and I do know that area experts make a big deal like yourself. What I mean is it make a big difference. I know that there's everybody has access to Zillow and Redfin now. And, there's so much technology and awareness of the marketplace. I do realize that in some cases, it's kind of funny. You probably get clients that see homes or maybe, are aware of homes before real estate agents are sometimes. It's a little different than it used to be years ago. So I guess the question is, isn't it still important if someone's coming to, come down there to buy, or if someone wants to sell, and let's say they're not, it's a second home and they live in another state, that they really work with someone like you that's, kind of boots on the ground, familiar with the area, with a lot of the things that happen? Because, do you see, I guess that's the first question. I see it being a benefit as something that someone should do. What's your take on that? And do you think certain areas are different? I guess the question would be two parts. That's one. The second one is, if you're working with a real estate agent, would be more important to work with someone locally like yourself in Carmel, Pebble Beach, versus, let's say someone's buying or selling a house in San Jose, or is it still the same? What's your take on that?
well, there's the price point, as you brought up before, tends to be a little higher,
Right.
which tends to draw people to, agents to come down and help their clients, which in some senses it might work. In other senses, they may have found a place, but it may not have. They may have had a better deal, or they may have been able to get a different product, or maybe they just didn't know something that somebody else did.
Right.
Because just because a house is $2.5 million, maybe it should have been $2 million.
Right.
Or, and it just fit in that criteria, and that's the way it, it works. With a lot of people that I've got people that have come down from Piedmont. I have people that came down from Seattle, and I try and encourage them to, if they really are thinking about buying, stay down here for, a little bit. Like Carmel Realty, we have vacation rentals. So people can come down and stay for a month, stay, in June, stay in, when it's June gloom, stay in October, November, when it's beautiful down here.
Yeah.
And take advantage of that and see if this is really what you're going to want versus just doing it on a whim.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
that's a good point. And I do know that I'm the same, similar to you. I told you I was married down there in Pacific Grove, and we had a reception at Pebble Beach. And so we've been coming down there for 30 plus years as well. And you're right about the weather and the difference. Just for instance, right, downtown Carmel, don't get confused with Carmel Valley.
Yeah, definitely.
Carmel Valley, you're likely going to get better weather most of the time. Is that right? And then I think it's true, isn't it? For the most part, sometimes even like September, October, November could be the best months of the year down by the coast, huh?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And you'll find even microclimates just in Pebble Beach.
Yes.
Where, like, if you're going back to what you were saying about other agents coming down here and they see a property, it's $5 million. It's exactly what my client wants.
Right.
But they don't know it's going to be foggy there more than it is just on the other side of the hill.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's a big deal. And those that follow the show, me, I'm a big believer in local experts, because there is a lot to that. And then more specifically in areas like Ed's in, because, you're looking at usually higher price tags. You're looking at people for sometimes that are buying a $5, $6, $7 million home that could be a second home. They're visiting a couple times a year. I know it sounds funny to the average person, but that happens a lot. And, knowing the weather, the neighborhoods, what's coming and going, maybe some potential building or rebuilding that's taking place in certain neighborhoods. There's a lot of stuff to know when it comes to that type of thing. I'm guessing, Ed, that the other thing is, for the most part, all those areas down there pretty much, other than maybe Seaside, right, is pretty much anti-growth, or there's really, there's no place that, I guess there's going to be any new building anytime soon, right?
Yeah, I don't see, I think you might see some, Carmel Valley, but who knows how far that's out.
Right. Yeah. And that is a good point you made about, so you're saying that you guys, I didn't realize that. So you guys also have a property management property. So if someone wants to come down and spend some time, they could go to a website and look for potential rentals in that perspective as well.
Definitely. They can go to Carmel Realty on the web and find the vacation rental, and it's kind of nice because our staff, I think we have 80 something realtors.
Okay.
And we have 20 something staff members.
Wow.
So some of these places have 400 agents and they have 4 staff members.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice that, like, I have one of my clients that just bought a house a couple months ago. They are into the concierge service. So basically, if they come into town and they wanted their refrigerator stocked with X, or a party to be set up by a chef in downtown, it can all be set up.
Okay.
And it sounds kind of, above and beyond, but that's what some of these people are used to.
Yeah, it's true.
And if they're used to it, that's what you have to give. You have to give that kind of service. Otherwise, they'll find somebody else to give them that service.
It's a good point. So a few minutes to go here. Tell us a little bit about how you see the market kind of now and then into the future, maybe the next 12 to 18 months. I guess if I'm a buyer or a seller and someone's reaching out to you, Ed, and they're specifically looking at either buying or selling, and they're asking your advice, again, you could take them each, take a few minutes on each one. If I'm a buyer, what kind of advice are you giving them? Or if I'm a seller, what kind of advice, if they're asking you right now, what would you do in the marketplace?
So if you're a buyer in this market, these markets always go up, they go down, but down here, it stays a little bit more stable, and it's a little bit more of a trajectory that keeps going up.
Okay.
And if you're looking at this on a 12 to 18 month cycle, I would maybe stretch that out to 5 plus or minus years of what you're planning on doing. Are you using this as your own personal private getaway? Are you wanting to rent this out for events, which a lot of people do down here? So there's a lot of criteria that you have to go into with the buyer of what's this investment for.
Okay.
So that would be, the part, and it's kind of hard to say, oh, well, yeah, it's a great time to buy. It's a great time to sell. It's always a great time to buy. It is. I mean, it's like you were laughing about me walking down to the beach and so on and so forth. That ocean's not going anywhere. And it's beautiful every single day.
Yeah.
So, and we have people from all over the world here all the time.
Yeah.
And then as a seller, you can kind of look at it similar to the same thing. Have you used the property? Is it benefiting you in some form or fashion? The market, for the most part, is well up here.
Mm-hmm.
It may be a good time to sell, but if it goes down, it's not going to go down to where it was before.
Mm-hmm.
Say if our market went down 10 or 15%. So you're only up 35% from a year and a half ago. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's just going to bounce back up again.
Right. One of the things that just came to me too, and I don't know if you give me some feedback on it. I know it's odd in different vacation markets, Ed, but this whole evolution and the dynamic of Airbnb and VRBO and all this Airbnb type stuff. Are there regulations in Carmel and Pebble Beach about, a lot of these, in other words, a lot of counties are trying to prohibit kind of the use of the in and outs and Airbnbs kind of models. How are you guys seeing that affect your marketplace, or the counties kind of regulate that?
Yeah. Carmel by the Sea, you can only rent your place out by the month.
Okay.
The Point is a little bit different, and Pebble Beach is a little bit different.
All right.
But all of them, and Pacific Grove is starting to, so all the cities are pretty much trying to cancel that Airbnb out down here.
Okay.
Which is nice if you have somebody that's in and out all the time on your on your street versus
Right.
somebody that's there at least a month.
Right.
It's a little bit different.
And you wonder too, and I know that people have different motivations in counties and cities, but I think they're probably also trying to kind of protect the local homegrown business stuff, right? The bed and breakfast and the little boutique hotels in the different areas and stuff. They feel like it may take away from their business.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else that you could share? Any wisdom about? Other than what I would say is those listening to the podcast. First of all, if you've been down to Monterey, Pebble Beach, Carmel, God bless you, because you know how beautiful it is. If you haven't, you definitely have to take a trip down there and spend some time. Even more importantly, if you live in the Bay Area and you haven't been down there, which it's hard to believe, but maybe so, you need to go down and reach out to Ed. Before we go again, Ed, so 𝗥𝗱𝗡𝗡𝗘𝗖𝗧.com.
𝗥𝗱𝗡𝗙�realtor.com.
Realtor.com. There you go.
Don't shortchange me, Joe.
All right.
I used to have 𝗥𝗱𝗡𝗏.com, and then somebody bought it in England and wanted to sell it to me for like $2,000 or something.
Seriously?
I said, you can have it. You can have it.
That is funny. That's funny. All right. Well, Ed, it's been a pleasure. And what we should do is being down there in that area, it's a unique area. There's a lot of different things happening. I know just last weekend, you guys had the Concourse, the big auto show. Was that, I know COVID kind of, first we thought it was, going away and then it's coming back. How was that, by the way, with the whole COVID thing?
There were a lot of people here.
Was there? Okay.
Yeah. And it was probably, I don't know if you'd say 50-50 mask, not mask.
Okay.
I don't want to get into the whole thing, but, you and I know my wife's a COVID nurse and just dealt with that. So it is what it is. But it was a good event. There's a lot of people, and hopefully we don't get shut down again.
Yeah, well, good. Well, good luck. And I think what we'll do is have you on at least every quarter, every 3 or 4 months to kind of give us an update on the market, see what's happening down there. And outside of that, I can't wait to come down there and see you again.
Yeah, I'm waiting for it. Come on down.
All right, Ed. Thanks again for the time today.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. 𝗘𝘀𝗁𝗧 with Real Estate Radio Live. Thanks, Ed Bass, for continuing to join us today. We're going to have him on in the next couple of months, too, to get an update on the markets. There's a lot of different markets in the Bay Area, as you know. And for more information, you could always go to 𝗟𝗡𝗙𝗧.com. That's 𝗟𝗡𝗙𝗧.com. Take care. Have a great afternoon.
You've been listening to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's program, visit 𝗟𝗡𝗙𝗧.com. That's 𝗟𝗡RadioLive.com. Subscribe to our podcast. Discover more at 𝗟𝗡RadioLive.com.